What's the worst thing your mother-in-law has said to you?
So first off, no shade to my mother-in-law. She was an absolutely phenomenal woman. I wish everyone had a mother-in-law like mine. The worst thing she ever said to me was that she was concerned for me. I was pregnant and I was pretty far past my due date, and the stress of everybody like watching me, waiting for me to have a baby was just really irritating. And so I set the boundary that like I just can't talk to you until after I give birth, and she respected that. However, I had this boyfriend before I met my wife. He was the kind of guy that like cheated all the time with my money while I was at work, and I confronted him about it and he broke my wrist. I was trying to walk out the door, he grabbed my hand, twisted too hard, broke my wrist. His mother called me and was like, he's so sad because you kicked him out. He was gonna buy you a ring. Side note, with what money? Mine? No, thanks. I was already trying to get out of a relationship with this guy. He told me that she forgave her husband after he choked her and made her pass out. Sometimes our men just get frustrated.
What's the worst thing your mother-in-law has said to you?
I have so many of these stories, but we'll just stick with two for now from my first pregnancy. So first it was when we told her that I was pregnant. Mind you, this is my ex-husband now and my ex-mother-in-law. She looked at me and said, the math doesn't add up, honey, in front of, my husband. It did add up. He is his child. And then when I was 9 months pregnant, they showed up to my house without notifying me when they were coming. And I wasn't there because my husband at the time was deployed. And I thought I had gone into labor that night. So I went to a friend's house, who was a girl and had also just had a baby, but she was going to drive me to the hospital because she was closer. And so I stayed the night at her house in case it was labor. First baby, never had one before. And they blew up my husband's messenger, his phone, everything that they could get a hold of to let him know that I was cheating.
What's the worst thing your mother-in-law has said to you?
So this is what my mother-in-law said to me that absolutely broke me and showed me where I stood with her. And it happened right after I divorced her son. Her son and I split. He disappeared on us, on me, our kids, on her. He wasn't calling her, talking to her, and he didn't for 10 years. So this was 10 years ago. So right after the divorce, I couldn't make payments on anything because there's no child support coming in. I had 2 children, small children, and our pickup was repossessed. So here I am with no car. So I went to talk to her, and she had a car sitting there. She quit driving. And I'm like, hey, I'll put insurance on the car if you let me borrow it until I can afford to get a car next month when I get my money in. And I'm like, I'll take care of it and just let me borrow it until then. She goes, no. She goes, it kind of needs to be there in case my daughter's car breaks and she needs a car. Her daughter had a really nice car, and there was, I didn't see it breaking anytime soon within the next 3 to 4 weeks. But no, that car had to sit there for her daughter. So here it is, Minnesota, mid-February, 30 below, small town. Thankfully, I had friends, people in town that would give us rides. But we're walking in 30 below to work, to school. So yeah, that's where I stood with this woman. She was never really mean to me at all. And she did help me on occasion. But, yeah, she made her grandchildren walk in 30 below weather. Sorry for that. Had to compose myself a minute there. So yeah, she passed away last year. I did love her, but her priorities were a little off. It was all about her daughter and what her daughter needed. But then I realized the reason she thought that was because she knew I was stronger, a lot stronger than her daughter was. So her daughter needed her more than I did, which is okay. So she passed away last year. And for those wondering, we have never heard from my ex. He is off the grid, completely gone. We haven't had child support. He hasn't contacted his kids in the last 10 years.
What's the worst thing your mother-in-law has said to you?
I was dating this guy 7 years ago whose mother was very intensely giving me
Enmeshment vibes. She wanted to be involved in every aspect of his life. She started a business with him when he was like fresh out of high school. She convinced us both that it would be a good idea if she bought a house for us to live in as tenants and she would be our landlord, which she used as an excuse to come over unannounced whenever she wanted. And she generally was just really toxic whenever she came over. She gossiped a lot. She talked shit about all her friends. It was just not great. Anyways, one time she wanted us three to go on a family vacation, and I said I couldn't because I had to work my retail job and couldn't find anyone to cover me. She said that I was unprofessional and selfish and spoiled and that I wasn't good enough for her son. She also said that if I need anything from my landlord, I had to ask my boyfriend, who would then ask her. And lastly, every time that she came over for inspections, I was not allowed to speak or look at her.
Yeah, I know my destiny's in front of me. Growing up on 100 seeds, I must survive, it's a human need. To make it to the top, I must believe. Yeah, I'm growing like a flower. I meditate for hours. The rain is like my shower. I used to be that doubter. Used to be that coward. I used to be that tower. In terror, I'm crashing down and knowledge is the power. I'm a different person now. This is the world I found. My energy and certain sounds. Now my gods have made my verses loud, so I'm speaking out and I'm preaching out. Positive vibes are all around. I'm manifesting till I find my crown. To the haters will never put me out.
Stars come crashing down on me. Now I know times have changed. It's liberate.
What's the worst thing your mother-in-law has said to you?
Well, thankfully I never got that far, but my ex's mom just hated me from the get-go. He's Irish and she's like very old school, and she didn't approve of him dating a Hispanic. And we had broken up already, but when she found out I was pregnant, she was telling him and everybody that I only got pregnant because I wanted a green card. Granted, I was born in California. And then she put the idea in his head that I wasn't even his baby. And I told him, that's fine, if you want to believe that, I'm not going to change your mind. But we ended up going to go get a paternity test after my daughter had been born. And I was sitting on one side of the room, and they were sitting on the other side of the room. And I was there with my mom for support, and of course he brought the fucking dragon with him. And from the other side of the room, I could hear her say, yeah, I'm pretty sure that baby's not even yours. She's just trying to pin this on you for child support. Not once did I ever ask her broke-ass son for money. I just wanted him out of my life completely. Granted, if he wanted a relationship with my daughter, that was fine. To this day, he doesn't have one. So I told her, we're going to call her Linda. I said, Linda, I hope to God this baby is anybody else's but his. I hope it's just some rando I met on the street. I hope it's anybody else's but his baby. The test came back 97% positive that he was the father. And I told her, oh, there's that 3%. Because we went to go do a paternity test through the state, so he didn't have to pay. They automatically added his name to the birth certificate, but they automatically added him to child support as well. So he screwed himself on that one.
What's the worst thing your mother-in-law has said to you?
She told me there was a no return policy on her son. I'd like to speak to the manager.
What's the worst thing your mother-in-law has said to you?
I haven't had the best of a relationship with my partner's mom. At the start of my pregnancy, she was calling me a whore, accusing me of lying, saying I wasn't pregnant, and kicked me out of her house. And I wasn't allowed to see my partner because I was lying about being pregnant. And because we were struggling to find our own place at the time, we were staying with her. And when I was in active labor, she was refusing to take me to the hospital because I was in labor, because she's had 6 kids herself and knows everything. Incorrect. I was 7 centimeters dilated when I got to the hospital. She had also tried to walk into my birthing room because she heard a baby cry. She did not have the rights to come in, and she got kicked out straight away. And then 2 days after she was born, she told me to stop hugging my daughter and to share her. Oh, and also because I let my grandma hold her great-granddaughter for the very first time, she kicked me out. Me and my partner got kicked out.